On the purpose of 3 more hearings, and at this time we will begin with LD 456. It's a bill that's going to be presented by our committee member, Representative Black.
Good afternoon,
Let's get the button, then you can start over.
They didn't want me to sit. Want me to sit back down?
Now we need to repeat your name, please.
Senator Exempt, Representative Hickman, distinguished members of the Agricultural Conservation and Forestry Committee. My name is Russ Black, State Representative from House District 114, which includes the towns of Chester, Industry, Virginia, Strong, Temple, and Wilton. I'm here today to provide testimony in support of LD 456, an act to include non-alcoholic malt beverages in the list of exempt products in the law regarding labeling on genetically engineered products. As most of you, if not all of you, of the committee members are aware, the Maine Legislature enacted a statute in 2013 pertaining to the labeling of genetically engineered products. In doing so, the committee and ultimately the legislature agreed that it was appropriate to exempt alcohol beverages from the GMO labeling law. The purpose and effect of LD 456 is simply to clarify the language of this exemption with respect to malt beverages in order to make it explicit that what I believe we all intended, which was to exempt all beers, including non-alcoholic beer. The language in the existing statute, however, was not specific enough to capture the various classifications of beer that exist in the marketplace. I would add that in the case of with regular beer, non-alcoholic beer is marketed and sold to consumers of legal drinking age. I recognize that Maine statutes did not take effect until a certain number of other states also adopt a GMO labeling statute, but it is important to clarify this issue now for the following reason. Regardless of whether or when the statute is implemented, the Maine Legislature has taken a policy position in respect to this issue by having enacted the GMO law. To that extent, the language of the statute should be accurately reflect this policy. Thank you for your consideration, and I try to answer any questions, but I think there's going to be other people behind me that can answer those questions better than I.
Any questions for Representative Black? Seeing none, thank you, Representative. Any other legislators here that wants to testify on this bill, 456? Seeing none, we will start with our list, and we have 4 names, and I'll read all the names: Nancy Oden, Ann Robinson, Ellis Addison, and Shelley Doe. Those are the names I have on the list. So welcome, Nancy, and you can begin.
Not yet.
Well, I haven't started the clock. You're going to get here for 3 minutes. And I know you drove a long way from Jonesboro.
Yes. And I'm not as young as I used to be either. I'm also here representing old people. And farmers, organic farmers. This is ridiculous. Exemption. We're trying to label all GMOs, and here comes an industry in wanting an exemption. No more exemptions. It's just silly. LD 1326, which I had asked Senator David Burns to put in for me, would label all GMOs, medical, food, animal, all of them, and this would certainly include alcoholic beverages. Genetically modified organisms, most people have no idea, involves toxic bacteria, herbicides, pesticides, viruses, all things they force into the seeds of genetically modified plants, so that when people plant these seeds, they could be GMO or not. People won't know. The plants grow, the people eat them, they get these same substances in our bodies because they are expressed in every cell of these plants. And that includes hops and whatever else is trying to be exempted from labeling here. GMOs are dangerous, they are unnatural, they are unstable in the seeds, in the plants, in our bodies. Very dangerous. Most people have no idea. So life forms on Earth, our soil, our water, they're now in our blood. They should just be banned, but we're not talking about that, and we're not allowed to do that. That's a federal thing. But nothing, no genetically modified organism should be exempt from labeling. What in the world is wrong with labeling? If it's okay, why won't they label it? And I'll leave short of my 3 minutes because that's what I have to say. The answer is no to this bill, please. Nothing should be exempt.
Any questions for Nancy? One from Representative Marini.
Thank you, Nancy. I missed your last name. What was it?
Oh, it's Oden, O-D-E-N.
Thank you. Next is Ann Robinson. Oh, right, there's Ann.
Sign in first.
Thank you, Senator Edgecombe and members of the committee. My name is Ann Robinson. I'm a lawyer with Credit Clarity here in Augusta, and I represent Anheuser-Busch. And we are in support of this legislation. The clerk is distributing testimony by the Beer Institute, which is the trade association that it represents, which is comprised of beer brewers, importers, and the like. So Anheuser-Busch is a member of that organization, and they asked me to pass along their statement to you. But I am speaking today on behalf of Anheuser-Busch. As Representative Black stated, we believe this truly is a simple clarification, and the fact remains that the existing GMO statute contains an exemption for alcoholic beverages. And that was the intent of the committee at the time and of the legislature at the time. And as it turns out, the way the amendment, or rather the way the statute was drafted, it referred to alcoholic beverages, but if you look at the liquor laws, I don't know if any of you have ever served on VLA, and if you have, and you may be familiar with what an arcane codification of law that is, but in any case, that statutory framework defines alcohol. It doesn't define alcohol as a beverage. It then goes on to define the different kinds of alcoholic beverages. So with respect to non-alcoholic beer, there are two important points about it. One is that the process for producing or making non-alcoholic beer is the same as it is for alcoholic beer, or regular beer, if you will. Just at the very end of that same process, almost all, but not all, but almost all of the alcohol is extracted at the end of the process. So if you look at the bill, as you will see, non-alcoholic malt beverages are defined as those which contain less than 0.5% alcohol by volume, whereas malt beverages are typically 0.5% or more alcohol by volume. So that was the first point. The second point is that non-alcoholic beer, regardless of the fact that it is non-alcoholic beer, is nevertheless still marketed and sold only to people of legal age. I mean, it is still very much a part of that classification of product. And so we believe that this is absolutely consistent with the intent of the basic exemption that was in the original statute. We don't believe that a distinction was intended to be made, and we think it really is a matter of how the legislation was drafted. So we appreciate Representative Black sponsoring the bill. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today. I'm happy to answer any questions, either today or to come back with more information for the work session. Thank you.
Representative Marini.
Thank you. A question. 2 years ago, Credit Clarity represented the vodka and lobbied for the bill in front of this committee. Today, your firm represents the Organic Consumers Fund in an attempt to remove the trigger, right?
Yes.
This bill that you're testifying on has got nothing to do with the trigger. All we're talking about is labeling, right?
That's right.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Representative Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Pardon me for being new to the committee this year, so I failed to hear the testimony last time. I'm wondering if you could speak very briefly to the intent of the exemption for the alcoholic beer that is in the statute.
Right, thank you. Yes, the intent of this legislation, today's bill, this amendment is to clarify that let me step back actually, okay, so I'm sorry. So the statute, the existing statute that is on the books today exempts alcoholic beverages among a couple of other things, as you know, totally unrelated. So alcoholic beverages, is a wide classification of beer, wine, liquor, and so forth. In the codification of the liquor laws, and in the marketplace, if you will, in general, non-alcoholic beer is still considered one of those products. As I said, it has virtually all the alcohol extracted, but not in 100%. It's a variation on the malt beverage product, and so we believe that the intent was to exempt alcoholic beverages, that wide classification, that wide group of products that are out there in the marketplace, but the actual language that refers to alcoholic beverages is not a defined term in the liquor laws.
Representative Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry I didn't communicate my question very well because you stated a couple of times, I understand the intent was to exempt alcoholic beverages. What was the intent? What I'm wondering is if you know what the reason was for that intent, in other words.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Why was that originally exempted?
Yes, and it's my understanding that it's at least in part because those products, whether they are non-alcoholic or alcoholic, and where on the continuum they are products that are sold only to people of legal age. They are not, in that sense, mainstream products that are available to the population as a whole. They're more discretionary in their selection and in the population that can consume them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no further questions, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ellis Addison.
Senator Edgecombe, Representative Hickman, members of the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation and Forestry. I'm Ellis Addison. I'm the Bureau Director for the Bureau of Agriculture, Food and Rural Resources at the Department of Agriculture, Conservation and Forestry. I'm speaking on behalf of the department today, neither for nor against LD 456. The bill exempts non-alcoholic malt beverages from the disclosure requirements of the laws regulating the labeling of genetically engineered products. The department does have concerns with the eventual implementation of the GMO legislation should it become effective. However, we do not have an issue with the goal of this bill. The proposed changes would exempt non-alcoholic malt beverages from GMO labeling, treating them the same as alcoholic beverages. This appears to be a reasonable consideration. Thank you.
Questions? None? Seeing none? Thank you, Mr. Addis.
Thank you. Shelley Doak.
Good afternoon, Senator Edgecombe and Representative Hickman and members of the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation and Forestry. My name is Shelley Doak. I live in Reedfield, and I'm the executive director of the Maine Grocers and Food Producers Association, and I'm speaking in opposition today to LD 456. I have testimony on the other two bills, and it's all compiled together. So when I testify on those other bills, you'll get my written testimony on this particular bill. As you know, the association is a business trade association representing Maine's food community. Grocery stores, independently owned and operated, many are family-owned businesses. Supermarkets, many Maine-based food and beverage producers, processors, distributors, and supported service companies. As I said, I need to repeat, many of them are family-owned and operated businesses. Product safety and consumer confidence is our members' top priority. We support reasonable, science-based, balanced legislation that protects the health and welfare of all Maine people. While we believe the health and safety issues regarding food and food labeling are best legislated on the national level, our opposition today to LD 456 is because it unravels the thoughtful and deliberative work of all the interested parties that resulted in the passage of Maine's genetic engineering labeling law, public law 436. Which creates a framework for labeling of genetically engineered food offered for retail sale here in Maine. This proposal seeks a carve-out for a very specific product exemption for non-alcoholic beverages. I have the original legislation to answer your question, Representative Chapman, and in the legislation, my phone is so tiny, but in the original legislation that was presented by sponsored by Representative Harville and a host of other legislators. Alcoholic beverages were in the first iteration of the bill. But I'm concerned about this bill in particular and the others, which you will hear me testify before. Not about the labeling, it's about the unraveling of the thoughtful and deliberative compromise and the bill that we have today. And I also just need to say that of all of our members, which we have over 100 Maine-based food and beverage processors, none of them sought an exemption from the labeling laws. This proposal seems to undermine that work, and which we played a key role in, and I would urge that you reject this proposal. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions for Shelley? Thank you, Ms. Doak.
Thank you. There are no more people signed up for LD 456. Is there anyone else in the room who would like to testify on this bill? Please step forward.
Good afternoon, Senator Edgecombe, Representative Hickman, and ladies and gentlemen of the Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry Committee. My name is Tim Hobbs. I am the Director of Development and Grower Relations for the Maine Potato Board, and just here to provide additional information in regards to Representative Chelsea's question. It was our understanding, participating in the process back when LD 718 was introduced, discussed, and compromised on, that alcoholic beverages were exempted because of federal preemption issues. Trying to avoid a bill that stimulated a lawsuit due to federal preemption, because they're regulated by the federal government.
Questions for yeah? Thanks for your testimony.
Well, thank you, Mr. Jones. Is there anyone else who would like to testify on LD 456?
Young lady over here. Yes, sir.
I signed up to testify for LD 991, not this one, but I have to leave unless you can allow me to testify in this.
I'll tell you what, we'll move you to the, I'll let you testify to the front. I'm going to move right into the next one right off. And your name is?
Jody Spear.
Jody Spear.
We'll it would take an hour to get to the point where I've signed up, so.
Yeah, okay, we'll keep that in mind. So you have a commitment?
Yes.
Okay. We'll take care of that.
Anyone else who would like to testify on LD 456?
Okay, the hearing on 456 is closed, and at this time,